In the ordinary realm of high school, Junichi observes as many of his classmates pair up, leaving him and his male friends without any female companions. While his friends engage in conversations about girls and browse through magazines during class, Junichi finds himself caught with an unflattering magazine in front of the fashionable and pretty Yukana Yame, who expresses her disgust. Prompted by their belief that Yukana, a gal who frequently dates boys, would be a suitable match, Junichi's friends choose him to ask her out. They leave a confession letter in her shoe locker. Junichi is taken aback when he encounters Yukana, and, persuaded by his friend Shinpei, musters the courage to confess his feelings. Initially uncertain, Yukana correctly guesses that he has never had a girlfriend before and suspects that he is more interested in the idea of having a girlfriend than being with her. Despite witnessing his embarrassment, she agrees to become his girlfriend. The day following Junichi's confession, he finds himself still in a state of shock, contemplating how to navigate his newfound relationship with Yukana. In the midst of his pondering, Shinpei suggests that a karaoke date would be the perfect opportunity for some intimate moments in a private room. Unexpectedly, Yukana takes matters into her own hands and proudly declares to their entire class that she and Junichi are now an item. With the news out in the open, she extends an invitation to Junichi for a karaoke outing, just as she has done with her friends in the past. As they belt out tunes, Junichi's imagination starts to run wild with seductive fantasies involving Yukana. Drawing inspiration from Shinpei's counsel, he musters up the courage to lean in for a kiss. However, Yukana skillfully puts a halt to his advances by playfully pointing out a protruding nose hair. Though she brushes off the incident with laughter, Yukana takes a moment to reflect on Junichi's attempt as she leaves the room. Meanwhile, as our couple exits the karaoke establishment, their encounter does not go unnoticed. From a distance, Ranko catches a glimpse of Junichi and Yukana, adding an extra layer of intrigue to the unfolding saga. Junichi finds himself compelled to accept an invitation that mysteriously appeared in his shoe locker. Little does he know, this rendezvous leads him to encounter Ranko, who wastes no time in launching a full-scale seduction campaign. However, before things escalate further, Yukana intervenes and puts a stop to their antics. As it turns out, Ranko is Yukana's childhood friend, but there's a catch. She's labeled as dangerous. And boy does she live up to that description. Soon enough, Ranko covertly vows to dismantle the budding relationship between Yukana and Junichi. The following day, the trio Junichi, Yukana, and Ranko roam the city streets, minding their own business, when they find themselves accosted by two audacious fellows who have their eyes set on Yukana. Junichi valiantly steps in to shield Yukana, but unfortunately ends up being unceremoniously pushed aside. Surprisingly, Ranko, instead of coming to Yukana's aid, agrees to join forces with the two guys, only to swiftly give them a taste of their own medicine with a good all beatdown. Talk about a plot twist. Later on, Ranko makes an unexpected appearance at Junichi's humble abode, once again attempting to entice him. She accuses him of not truly loving Yukana, and tries to sow seeds of doubt. Junichi vehemently denies the accusations, but his words only serve to further enrage Ranko, who becomes increasingly forceful in her advances. Just when things are reaching a boiling point, Yukana catches them in a rather compromising position. Awkward, to say the least. Yet, Yukana chooses to downplay the situation, gracefully excusing herself from the premises, with Ranko following suit. As the two girls depart, Junichi's classmate Yui observes the scene from a distance, perhaps adding yet another layer of intrigue to this intricate web of relationships. Later, Yui starts off by reminiscing, and enjoying the attention she receives from her classmates, particularly Junichi. Meanwhile, Junichi finds himself delving into research on Jairus, or gals, which leads him to an online show featuring a stylish girl who loves to criticize people while her followers wholeheartedly agree in the chat. Back at school, Yui makes her grand entrance while her classmates warmly greet her, unaware of her true thoughts and how she perceives them as lowly maids and butlers. Keigo, accompanied by Junichi, Shinpei, and Minoru, engages in a conversation about the girl they saw online the previous night. Keigo proudly shows them a picture of the girl he encountered. However, Shinpei, having seen her elsewhere before, expresses doubts about the authenticity of the image. As fate would have it, Yukana joins the group with her friends, and Yui seizes the opportunity to strike up a conversation with Junichi. Later at the cafe, Yui unleashes a barrage of criticism towards Yukana, leaving Junichi unsure of his position since he and Yukana are officially dating. Meanwhile, Shinpei watches an online stream featuring Boa, the stylish girl known for her scathing remarks. Suddenly, it dawns on him that the girl he saw before and Boa are one and the same, prompting him to quickly capture the evidence. The next day, Shinpei shares his revelation with Keigo and Minoru, presenting the evidence that Boa and Yui are indeed the same person. Their connection becomes clear through Boa's distinctive opinions and comparing images. During their discussion, Ranko interrupts and joins in on the conversation. Yui takes the opportunity to invite Junichi to the rooftop, where she confesses her feelings and orders him to break up with Yukana. However, Junichi turns down Yui's confession, which triggers her sudden outburst of dissatisfaction. Yui even goes as far as threatening to reveal their cafe conversation to Yukana, but just in time, Junishi's perverted friends, along with Ronko, make their entrance. Ronko counter-threatens Yui, stating that she will expose Yui's identity as Boa to the entire class if she continues to blackmail Junichi. Feeling defeated, Yui hands Junichi a memory card and leaves in dismay. To Junishi's relief, Yukana appears after the confrontation, and is overjoyed to discover that he remains completely devoted to her. After the episode concludes, we catch a glimpse of Yui vowing to seek revenge as she walks away. Meanwhile, at the salon, a buxom lady expresses her satisfaction with her makeover. Beauty truly knows no bounds. Junichi has a dream about Yukana before waking up to find Nane, a pink-haired lady, on his chest. Nane reveals her desire to emulate a gal, and clings to Junichi as they head to school, much to the envy of his friends. At the shoe lockers, Yui approaches Junichi, attempting to make amends, but Nane interrupts and berates Yui while making fun of her appearance. During lunch break, Junichi eats with Yukana while Ronko keeps watch. Nane joins them, and Yukana barely recognizes her, but Nane competes with Ronko and Yukana for attention. Later that night, after watching Yui's online show, Junichi tries to sleep but is interrupted by Nane. However, Junichi remains loyal to Yukana and asks Nane to leave. Nane leaves, determined to win Junishi's affections someday. The next day, Junichi appears worried about Nane, and Yukana approaches him with concern. Nane interferes, but Yukana remains unaffected and smiles at them both. The romantic entanglements continue to unfold, leaving us curious about what lies ahead for our characters. Shinpei and his friends engage in a discussion about Junishi's progress in his relationship, and they come up with the idea of spicing things up by playing a game of king. Yukana invites Junichi to her house, but he suggests inviting Ronko, Nane, and his friends, much to Yukana's disappointment. As Junichi daydreams about being with Yukana, Yui unexpectedly appears and ends up being invited as well. Once at Yukana's house, she goes to change and invites Junichi to her room. However, their private moment is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of Ronko, Nane, and Yui. Not only that, but Junishi's friends also show up wearing eccentric outfits. Shinpei takes the lead and initiates the king game, and everyone seems to be having a good time. However, both Shinpei and Junichi secretly devise a plan to secure a kiss from Yukana during the game. When the round involving kissing comes up, it turns out that all the boys are chosen, revealing that Junichi rigged the selection to spare the girls from having to kiss any of the guys. It's a rather embarrassing turn of events. Despite the awkwardness, Yukana invites everyone to join her for a summer vacation. The only problem is that everyone lacks the necessary funds to make it happen. So, they come to a decision to take on part-time jobs in order to save up for their anticipated summer getaway. With their determination to make their summer vacation a reality, the group sets out on their individual job-seeking endeavors. It remains to be seen what adventures and challenges await them as they work towards making their dream vacation a memorable one. Shinpei and Junichi discuss job opportunities they found online as they prepare for their upcoming summer vacation. Junichi decides to apply for a position as a kitchen staff in a cosplay-themed cafe. Surprisingly, Yukana, Ronko, Yui, and Nane also end up working as cosplayed waitresses in the same cafe. As the days go by and they continue their part-time jobs, they begin to notice something suspicious about the cafe. The supervisor has a devious plan to hold an event that seems to have questionable intentions. To their surprise, the supervisor gives them books that appear ordinary, but actually contain risque stories. Junichi and Yukana realize that something is not right about the upcoming event. Filled with anger, Junichi confronts the supervisor about respecting the girls, but his plea falls on deaf ears. Feeling frustrated, Yui takes matters into her own hands and contacts the cafe owner, threatening the supervisor. Thanks to Yui's intervention, the event is ultimately cancelled, and they finally receive their hard-earned earnings. In a post-credits scene, the long-awaited summer vacation has finally arrived, and the group happily gathers at their planned meeting point. Junichi, Yukana, and their friends finally reach the much-awaited beach. While the girls enjoy themselves in the water with Junichi, Shinpei and his perverted buddies seem to be more interested in ogling at other ladies in swimsuits. In the evening, the girls relax in the hot springs, but Shinpei continues his questionable plan of trying to sneak a peek at them. As the boys make their way towards the hot springs, Junichi attempts to thwart Shinpei's scheme, but Shinpei accuses him of being a traitor. Junichi and Shinpei argue back and forth in the forest until Junichi accidentally falls off a cliff. Meanwhile, Shinpei and Keigo continue their march, but encounter various traps that hinder their progress. In a twist of fate, they accidentally trigger a switch that sets off a beautiful fireworks display, much to the delight of the girls who witness it. The girls continue their bonding time on the beach, enjoying the company and playing with string fireworks. While Yukana and Junichi share a sweet moment together, Yui, Ronko, and Nane can't help but feel envious of their connection. Later, Yukana and Junichi return to the city, where they encounter a guy who seems to be familiar to Yukana. Yukana's old friend from middle school, Dai Midori, unexpectedly crosses paths with her and Junichi. Junichi starts feeling insecure, thinking that Yukana is more interested in Dai because of his appearance. This leads to a disagreement between them, and Yukana storms off in frustration, leaving Junichi feeling even worse. Despite Junichi's attempts to talk to Yukana at school, he fails to bridge the gap between them. In an effort to lift Junichi's spirits, his friends take him to karaoke, which initially succeeds in cheering him up. However, things take a turn for the worse when they spot Yukana having a conversation with Dai. On another day, after a conversation between Junichi and Yukana, he suddenly runs away, leaving her heartbroken. Yui confronts Junichi, expressing her anger at his selfishness and narrow-mindedness. Nani also shares similar sentiments. Meanwhile, Yukana meets with her friends, but before she can say anything, she breaks down in tears. This sparks anger in Ranko, who storms off to find Junichi. At a restaurant, Ranko eventually finds Junichi and his friends, but to their surprise, Dai and his gang show up as well. They overhear Dai and his gang discussing their plans involving Yukana. Determined to protect her, Ranko confronts them, but Junichi steps in and stands up against them. Junichi confronts Dai and they step outside to settle their differences. Initially, Dai gains the upper hand in the fight, but Junichi resorts to biting Dai's leg. As Dai calls for backup, Junichi's friends join the scene, and despite the numbers, Dai and his friends fail to overpower Junichi. Eventually, Dai promises to stop bothering Yukana, and Junichi releases his grip. However, Dai immediately starts kicking Junichi repeatedly. Ranko intervenes with the support of Junichi's friends. Encouraging Junichi, Ranko urges him to find Yukana and make amends. Meanwhile, Yukana is at a cafe with Nane and Yui, but she ignores Junichi's frantic phone calls. Nane and Yui advise Yukana to meet Junichi and resolve their feelings. After Yukana leaves the cafe, Yui and Nane contemplate whether it's right for them to help their rival. Junichi waits anxiously, and finally, he meets Yukana behind the school. They reconcile, with Junichi recreating his initial confession. Following their romantic reunion, Yukana suggests they spend the day at the amusement park. At the amusement park, they visit a photo booth and take a picture together. Junichi attempts to kiss Yukana, adding a touch of romance to their date. As the day comes to an end, Yukana confesses that she wants to return to the amusement park with him in the following year and every year after. Surprisingly, she kisses Junichi before leaving for home, leaving him stunned. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.